Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Vault, a BitGo podcast. I am Zain Bedi, and I help lead fintech partnerships here at BitGo, and I am joined by my esteemed guest, Julian Kwan, CEO and co-founder of InvestaX, as well as ISX. Thank you very much, and great to have you here, man.
Hey Zane, thanks. Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Obviously, you came here all the way from Singapore. Yeah? You've done a lot throughout your career, Australia, starting off in the traditional finance markets, real estate financing, as well as, capital markets more broadly. You now own and found multiple companies. I think it's 7 plus, if I remember correctly.
Since I was, much younger.
Yeah. My question to you, man, is you've had quite an incredible journey to get to this point. What kind of led you here, and how did you ultimately get in this seat and end up running two of the most innovative and interesting companies in the RWA and crypto space?
Yeah, there was a bunch of different startups, media, real estate development. I came across. We built boutique hotels in Shanghai and some co-working space before we were branded that industry, and I was always wondering when the sort of internet marriage. So when we started the advertising company, it was before, mobile phones. It was at the beginning of mobile phones. So it's like the only thing you could do was text. And we did the first text advertising in China. And then we saw that evolution of smartphones, and then, the growth of the internet. So I was always thinking, like, how do you use the internet? What's the marriage of internet and real estate investing?
Yeah.
But not like buy a house, more like private equity deals, real estate development. So we actually launched. So I moved to Singapore in about 2013, 14. Didn't want to start a tech platform in China
Yeah.
because I didn't think I'd keep ownership of that for too long. So wanted to stay in Asia. Hong Kong was very anti-tech. Singapore was very pro-tech, fintech hub of Asia. So we moved to Singapore and we started the first iteration of InvestaX, which was kind of a private equity real estate platform.
Interesting.
And that was very interesting. People would say, no one's going to do this. No one's going to invest serious money online for real estate projects in other parts of the world, because we only did developed markets, because it's very difficult to do due diligence on emerging market anything.
Yeah.
So we were doing New York, Sydney, London, larger scale projects. And it started to happen, started to work. People were doing this. But then along came the ICO boom of 2017, 18. So in Singapore, about 30, 40% of companies. So a lot of the ICOs didn't have an underlying company, but a lot of them did. And so the ones that actually had like a company structure underneath, 30, 35% of them were Singapore companies.
Interesting.
So it was this huge epicenter of coin launches, and the government let it go. They made statements and said buyer beware, but they didn't come in with any regulation.
They didn't do like what the US did.
Yeah, they
essentially.
didn't. They basically,
yeah.
They just said these aren't. If it's a security, it's a security. If it's not a security, it's not a security. You guys need to sort of work it out.
I actually love how black and white that is.
It was, yeah. It was really cool. Very forward thinking. The government there's been trialing CBDCs and blockchain projects in 2013. So they're way ahead of the curve.
Wow.
Yeah, so we look at that, said, all right, we're already got a broker dealer. We're already doing this. How about we add an exchange license? So it's the US equivalent of like a BD and an ATS.
Mm-hmm.
And in this new world of tokenized, of new money, digital money, we're going to need a whole world of digital security. So we saw back in 2018, we believed that the whole capital markets would go on chain. It's better, faster, more transparent, and the regulators would support it because it's not crypto, it's securities that already exist. So this is better formats.
Yeah.
So we kind of went all in, and we kind of almost got disadvantaged, or kind of the positive support we got in Singapore. We thought that logical mindset would carry across all regulators.
Yeah.
And 8 years later, it's finally dropping on certain jurisdictions, America included. So we were very early, and there was like no infrastructure. There was no custodians, no broker dealers, no assets, it was a very confused market between the crypto, the ICO. We used to call real-world asset tokens security tokens.
Yeah.
Then it changed its name to digital securities, and it now rebranded again to real-world asset tokens. So it's been an incredible journey. But now we're at that moment where we saw nearly 7 years ago that like all of the Web 2 fintechs, PayFis would eventually add crypto and stable coins and then RWA securities. And all of the TradFi guys, so you'd either have Coinbase adding, RWA, and then you'd have Robinhood adding crypto and then RWA. And RWA would be the glue that brings everybody together. And now you're seeing this massive convergence happening with ICE and New York Stock Exchange investing into like OKX crypto exchange and Coinbase and whatnot. And everyone wants these assets. And I think that we're now at that moment that I was hoping for many years ago, of acceleration with the positive regulation support. So that's kind of the journey on how we got here.
Nice, man. It's been a long journey for sure. Like you said, you've been in the market all the way back since 2013. But finally we are here at hopefully what is that inflection point where with the proper regulation, with the proper infrastructure, we will actually be able to build really innovative products like what you guys are offering. You kind of talked about this multiple times, right? Like the transition from the branding of real world assets, from the what it was historically called. And I'm keen to understand kind of where do you think we are right now today in that development? Do you think like Robinhood and is about to launch this to then bring that marriage together, or do you think we're still maybe a little bit further away down the road?
Yeah. Well, no, I think now is the time.
Okay.
I think that people were always asking, where's the buy side? Who needs this? Why do we need real assets on
Yes.
chain? And the history from 2018 to 2023 was all RWA issuances were private assets, startup tokens, VC tokens, real estate. Quality wasn't high and size was small and liquidity was limited. Uh, and so we always thought that the liquidity is there already. It's sitting with millions of users on platforms. They just haven't had the right assets packaged up and put in front of them. Coinbase, whatever, 150 million users. Robinhood, 25, 50 million users. Like the users are there. A year or 2 years ago or so, we started to see the first financial instruments come on chain. So predominantly the tokenized treasuries. And that kind of threw everyone off because everyone thought blockchain, RWA is most beneficial for private assets because it brings tradability and transparency and so-called liquidity. But actually, the first real product market fit for the whole industry was tokenized treasuries because $200 billion of stable coins earning 0 yield. So if you could get a treasury back in the day, it was 5% yield, instant liquidity, daily redemptions, trade in and out, stay in stable coins, don't have to go to fiat. Wow, bang, we hit it as an industry hit it. So that then led to money market funds and sort of tokenized ETFs. And now we're moving into tokenized private credit. The point is financial instruments, institutional quality, US dollar backed, there's a huge appetite for that. And then that was shown sort of naturally, if you will, but then you started to see the crypto exchanges and the DEXs and these other blockchain native type platforms demanding the same types of assets, which again, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense. What's the opposite of crypto? It's a tokenized treasury. Yeah, look, that's been the kind of the evolution. And I think that now you're seeing tokenized stocks, which is very interesting. You're seeing a whole plethora of assets. And the main lesson that I think the industry has taught us is that, you should never, or at least industry players, like when you see a new asset or you hear about a new asset or a new use case, the worst thing you can do is think, well, I don't need that. So why would we have that? Because that was the appetite for sort of, say, the tokenized stocks doesn't come from New York. It comes from 8 billion people that can't set up a trading account in New York. So Indonesians and Nigerians and Africa's like huge demand who've never been able to access stocks before.
Yeah.
So that's just one example. And then we start to see everyone coming on chain, whether it's TradFi guys or the demand, coming from both sides. And now there's finally crossed the barrier of like, why would we do this? It's like, you need to be on chain for the new world of digital money. And it's not like, I want to do this just to raise money. It's like, this is the direction of travel. If we're not there, we're going to miss out.
Yeah, these are like the actual rails.
Yeah, that's right.
That the new system is moving
That's right.
to. You mentioned multiple interesting points there, but the liquidity one is one that I frankly, you look at even Biddle, right? Biddle's great product, as you said. It's probably the first true product market fit that we've seen. The liquidity aspect of it has, I think we can all be frank here, has been tough.
Right.
But I know that you guys have been, with a keen eye looking at that. What exactly are you doing on the liquidity side to actually bring that into the RWA space?
So you're right. There's been evolution of the space is people thinking about this pre-launching of an asset of like, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to buy it? Where's it going to trade? Is there a liquidity pool? These is sort of a maturation of the space to get to, if you want to get a successful launch. The reason we have two platforms that are both regulated in the space is we launched IXS a couple of years ago. At the time, there was zero liquidity in the space. The BIDL token didn't exist. All right, there were no treasuries, but we were like, well, if you look at 2017 in crypto, you had a massive issue where if you had $1 million and a lot of liquidity in your big crypto token, you could afford to list on Binance and Coinbase, and they wanted you.
Yeah.
But if you were tens of thousands of smaller coins, bad luck. So then along came the innovation of the automated market maker, the DEX model, which allowed anyone with 2 tokens to start a liquidity pool, and then liquidity grows from there pending success of the project. And then bang, we had this explosion of volume and accessibility and all these kinds of things for all the altcoins. So we looked at it and said, all right, if we believe every asset's going to get tokenized, the big ones will belong on like an InvestaX or a Securitize, and they'll have market makers and they'll have all the good stuff. But what about your startup token and his VC token and the millions of other RWA assets that are not big enough? But we were very early.
Yeah.
All the assets are private. We stuck up the first 10 pools. Some of them are even paired against crypto because like it was just we had to try to just hustle to get it going. And it essentially worked, but it didn't scale at the time because we didn't have high enough quality liquid assets just in general for the industry. So fast forward to today, things are changing. We went very institutional on the asset side,
Yeah.
treasuries, money market funds, because they're liquid, but they have multiple use cases in the ecosystem. So now we focus purely on that, and now we're building some really exciting stuff for the agent space. These tokenized vaults with securities that all agents can invest and divest into. But like that's the evolution. So we sort of round tripped back to Wall Street.
That's so funny, man.
It wasn't the plan at the beginning, but I gave up. Like, startups you have to go where the business is, right? So,
Yeah.
but interestingly enough, that success now and that growth in in Wall Street assets has reignited all the private markets. So we'll have 50, 60 inquiries a month now, everything. Startups from all over the world, commodity projects,
Yeah.
all kinds of equity types of projects, debt projects. Like, it's unlimited, because if you think about a tokenized, real world asset tokenization is essentially tokenized shares, or shares of everything.
Yeah.
That's the kind of explosion that we're starting to see now.
The secondary private security markets is an interesting one. Private equity as well. Like all of these, a lot of them are still paper though.
Yeah.
Right. In the back end. Where do you see that going? And you think we're going to get like properly digital native, ownership of some of those asset classes?
One of the key lessons that I've learned in the last couple of years is like, just because it's faster and better and cheaper doesn't mean the people who are in the middle want to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, they never want to get out of the way. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, the entire financial markets is just full of middlemen.
Yeah.
That's how, like, connecting the dots. Whereas blockchain can remove a lot of these people. But again, in big markets that are structured and, stock exchange, right? There's a lot of companies involved with services and making money. So, just flipping the switch and going all on chain actually destroys a lot of their businesses. So the point is, I think that it depends which industry,
Yeah.
it depends which assets. There's a lot of industries that don't have any of that. Like, you can talk about, and you can talk about public stocks, but talk about private startup. If someone has an optionality with tokenizing their startup shares versus just a piece of paper that sits in the drawer for 10 years, and you might be able to start a liquidity pool, and someone might let you borrow against that,
Yeah.
right type of environment, then you see like this whole world of extra value that you can bring to a particular asset. But it's really asset specific, I think, in terms of how that plays out. And then, I think we used to think as an industry that like there'd be massive consolidation.
Yeah.
I actually think the opposite now. I think it's kind of like AI, where everyone thought like all the big LLMs will win, but now it's like specialized smaller LLMs is like exploding, because every industry is like has multiple sub industries and multiple skill sets within that. And it's the same for now. You've got a world of businesses and platforms, whether it's private banks or wealth managers or broker dealer networks or crypto exchanges or fintechs that have millions and millions of users, and not one single person in that space wants to lose or give away an investor to someone else.
Nope.
It's never going to happen. So, and because security is very complex, in multi-jurisdiction. And tech platforms are very complex as well. Your stack's different to my stack, even though we're both selling, apples and oranges. That I see now that there's just a world of opportunity to connect any type of RWA asset to a particular group of investors in a way that makes sense for them financially, legally, UX, UI for the users. So we're actually positioned now as a B2B partner, so we can power the legal issuance and trading of any real asset tokens plugged into, say, a crypto exchange or a fintech, where their users are buying and selling, but it's legally being done on our platform. You work on some kind of B2B revenue partnership, and it's win-win-win-win for everyone. So that's actually the what's happening. And you do have occasionally in discussions with investors who are like, oh, well, BlackRock's won this game. And you're like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, the BUIDL token. I'm like, well, it's the biggest and the best, but there's like 50,000 other asset managers in the world that haven't started yet.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. And you think about how many banks, how many broker dealers, how many fintechs, like the opportunities is very blue ocean. And again, like there's very complicated when you peel off platforms behind the scenes, how they want it done. And like from either, the user experience or from compliance perspective or from a revenue perspective or from whatever it is, there's so many considerations that I think we're just going to see like exponential growth of the asset class, and then many, many different ways these assets are accessed all over the world.
Regardless if it's paper today, ultimately unlocks a completely new medium for people to then interact with these different asset classes, and in many cases get access to an asset class that they may have never had the opportunity to actually interact with. You said something that really caught my attention as well, which is, first, you guys have done everything right. Out in Asia, out in Singapore, highly regulated entities. It seems like compliance and doing it the right way has always kind of been, forward thinking and kind of a first principle there. I'm keen to understand how you think that this plays out for the US. It's a bit of a philosophical question.
Right. Yeah.
But you did mention, right, that things are moving on chain, and in many cases it's not necessarily because people like you and I don't have access, but it was because people around the globe don't have access to stable coins or US dollars, and they want to have access to those things. So kind of just keen to understand that.
There's a few interesting things. I just read last week that like 70% of stablecoin usage is actually in Asia
Yeah,
for US dollar.
makes sense. Yeah.
So a lot of again, depends where you are in the world, what type of crypto or asset or RWA is in discussion in terms of where that kind of use case. But for the US, incredible change in the last 18 months. That's why we're here. That's why we're working with BitGo. After 4 years of a crackdown, you can see that people were still building here, but they were building like undercover because it was unclear what was going on. So I think recent developments, the Genius Act, which is incredible for America, increased US dollar dominance, guaranteed buyer of US dollar debt, that's genius. Trillions of stable coins coming down the pipeline. Plus the clarification recently from the SEC, CFTC, just clarity. And that's finally. So that is incredibly important. And I think that in crypto, people didn't care as much because it was new and there weren't really any rules and you could do it anywhere in the world. But if you're a broker dealer in America or a registered RIO, whatever you do, you can't just go, hey, new technology, let's just do what we want.
Yeah.
So it's like all these people are like, we want to do something, just tell us how to do it and let us go. Even if the rules aren't great, at least give us those rules. And that's what's changed. And I think and then you see this huge sea change of like the whole of Wall Street, like stampeding in. So now it's a very interesting moment because no one wanted to be first. Everyone wants to be second. Right. And it takes many years to get the tech stack married with the licensing. And even if you have legacy tech, if you're just going to go change that tech, at least in my world, you have to go get all that approved again because the license is based off how you do something. So if you've changed how you do it, even if it's better, like you still need to go and get someone to say yes or no.
Yeah, the regulators have to take a look, review it, make sure it checks out, and that it's commensurate with whatever you guys are, trying to offer at the end of the day.
And so I think that as incredible AI is, it's not going to dramatically change the length, time, pain, and cost to get licensed up and to build platforms into this space. So look, at the end of the day, it's incredible. We're set up here now. Like I think it's the biggest, it's the best market. It's got the capital, it's got the innovation, it's got the appetite. It's been bottled up for so long. Now I feel like it's kind of exploding. And I even said to people 18 months ago, I said, when the US is way behind, but if they open up, pretty much 12 to 18 months, they'll be on top. And I think that's probably about right, for at least in the RWA.
Yeah.
Definitely right. Crypto, yes. I think everything. So that speed and catch up, because Americans are the best at selling, they're now plugged in to all, everyone's plugging in so they can sell all these things. And now it's going to explode. So yeah, extremely excited by the American opportunity. I think it's very bullish. You guys are, now publicly listed, like there's going to be 10, 20, 30 new IPOs. There's going to be going from like Coinbase at 1 to like 10, 20, 30, 40 publicly listed blockchain companies that have access to the capital markets that are innovative and exploding, and then pairing that up with kind of the AI boom.
First off, Julian, I love the optimistic take.
Yeah.
And as an American, obviously, that is great to hear. And I've also on the partnership more broadly with us and yourself. Yeah, we're really happy to work with you guys and excited as, you take what you've learned from Asia and then bring it here to the States as well. And I am curious to understand, you guys have been in the trenches in Asia for like almost over a decade now, right?
Yeah. In this space it started RWA started as security token industry in like 2018,
Okay.
2019. Yeah. So a long time.
A long time, man. Yeah. You guys must have learned a lot from, your time in Singapore and working throughout, a lot of Asia. What do you think you've learned that you can bring here to the States as you guys, start to, offer some of those services
Yeah,
here
it's a
as
good
well?
question. The main thing is that, you're never going to scale anything with, real players if you're not doing things the right way.
Very
Right.
true.
So that was the battle we've had over the years with sort of people coming in, cowboys, either not knowing or don't care, making it very difficult for us, like, because they're saying all these things that aren't true and promising the world, and people are getting in trouble. Right.
Yeah.
But, we always wanted to be a B2B model. But that's kind of impossible to do when there's no B2C market.
Yeah.
So, because I was saying to wealth managers and private banks and crypto exchanges many years ago, because if you go back in 2021, the infamous FTX and Binance and Bitfinex, they all launched tokenized stocks. They just did it. They just put them on their crypto platform, but their securities, and where's the securities licenses? And they were like, they're over there. Like, don't worry about it.
A little bit of the,
So, yeah. So there were signs that all these guys would want these assets early on, but you need to do it properly. So the main, the key lessons is like we're coming into the US. We know that the appetite, the regulation is now clearer, almost set in stone. We have like massive channels that want to try to get in the space, and where do you start? So if you're whether you're TradFi or DeFi, the question is like, how do we do this? And at the end of the day, you can simplify it by saying, well, the only way you can do it is they can go line up and apply for licenses and spend a couple of years and a lot of money and maybe get the licenses. There's no guarantee you get the other, or you find another way to do it, which is working with someone that could actually do that for you. So for us, the main lessons is like, this is now B2B time is finally arrived, right? So we can actually plug into those groups, provide added value, provide the assets, provide the legal cover, provide the new revenue streams. Like, I'm not going to name names, but there are a bunch of Chinese-ish crypto exchanges who are selling huge amounts of RWA on their platforms today. It's just not being done legally. But the users don't care.
Yeah.
And money hasn't been taken from them yet. So they're seeing a 4% treasury token and they're buying, selling, but it's not meant to be there. But obviously America and legitimate players are not going to do this, right? So that's how we've learned. I think it's like it's an incredible heavy lift, like the changes throughout the industry that you had to adapt to, terminology, quality of assets, blockchains. Back in 2019, there were a bunch of blockchains that used to run around saying like it's private chain only.
Yeah.
And we were like, what are you talking about? That defeats the whole purpose. But R3 Corda, it was backed by 42 banks, Hyperledger Fabric, like it was this huge push, and they wanted you to, and so it's just one example. And we were like, no, we're all on public chain. And people thought we were crazy until Larry Fink came out 2 years ago and says, everything's on public chains. And then Fidelity said it. And then America went, oh, it's all about public chains. Like that's the whole point. So we were like, okay, good. This is good that we're getting it. But like, there's been 100 different things that we've had to navigate sort of get here, which now I think that the American market is definitely has, at least now, the current administration has seen what's going on and what's going to work, and at a high level. And I think that that's great. But it's definitely been extremely challenging. But I think there's incredible. That's what I tell a lot of new partners I make. Like, we know all the things you shouldn't do. That's like incredible, like value. It's not just you want to do this, great. But let me tell you, we've seen 7, 8, 9,000 RWA projects. We've only worked on probably 20 or so.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been getting called since 2018. Right?
Yeah.
So we've seen all the things that don't work. We've had an evolution of regulation. We've got an evolution of players in the space, an evolution of like liquidity, higher quality assets coming, better maturation of the space, less of the crypto craziness, and more people saying, "Oh, this is a good use. This is a real use case, actually. Like, this is like real use case. Other stuff questionable, but how do we do this now?" So lots of lessons, definitely an incredible amount of lessons.
How are you actually sorting out to make sure you are bringing the highest quality?
Well, now we've implemented a huge amount of AI into the business to help with things like this. But essentially, I can look at a project in 5 seconds and find out if like it's worth talking about.
Yeah. Does it pass the sniff test?
That's
basically?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and in the last couple of years, the biggest problem for us was, or as an industry, was people thought, well, if I launch an RWA or a security token, I'm going to get free money from the crypto bros. And so it doesn't matter if it's any good or not.
Yeah.
And those guys must want my real world asset. And the answer was no, they don't. Like, they don't want your startup shares.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry.
Yeah, no offense.
Yeah.
But look, again, that's changing. So like you can see the appetite now in the marketplace. It's 4 things that have an appetite that aren't on chain: treasuries, stocks, liquidity, yield. So yeah, look, I think ultimately, you've now got a moment where US government is saying this is good. Wall Street saying it's good. A lot of startups and jurisdictions around the world that were on the fence are now like, all right, well, we can go in. Most jurisdictions were ahead of the US, by the way. Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, mostly Asian knowledge. I mean, UAE, they've been pushing ahead. Even not too well versed on Europe, but like the US was essentially late to the party.
100%.
Now they're sort of taking over, like, which is great.
Yeah.
For the capital innovation. So I think it's all very promising right now. Yeah, very promising.
That's brilliant, man. AI agents, AI is obviously the talk of the town, across all industries.
Yep.
What are you guys doing internally, on the AI front? Quick.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I mentioned before when I got invited to the Googleplex in Singapore about 18 months ago, bunch of founders said, we're going to tell you about our AI plans. And it kind of blew me away. Now I know that most of it didn't work at that time, but I got excited.
Really good at selling.
Yeah.
Right?
And I ran out of I had an amazing lunch and got a massage and all the stuff at the Google office. It's nuts.
All the techie things.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
But I called, I said, all right, we got to do this. Like, it looks like it's here. So I hired a chief AI officer, which now you can see him. At the time, I just made that title up. Brought someone in and just sit with every single person and work it out. What do you do? How do we do this? The problem was that the tools didn't really work that well. So I was sort of banging the drum saying, we've all got to do this. There's so much benefit, but it wasn't very good.
Yeah. They ended up hitting a wall.
That's right. Yeah. Fast forward to today, a world of change. We've got about 53 agents in the business. So we've got more 1.5 to 2 to 1 agents to humans right now. And mostly for operational stuff. The next evolution is building automated flows for users on the platform. So it's all internal right now. Now we're moving to the external moves. And most interestingly exciting, we're launching very soon the first RWA vaults. So tokenized treasury, tokenized money market fund, available for all agents. So agents can buy and sell, invest, divest as easy as crypto.
Yeah.
Because we've got all this licensed infrastructure, special structures, et cetera, and all this experience in the space, we're pushing that out, which I think is going to be insane. Like, I don't currently know. We're seeing the first wave of crypto agents, where agents are using stable coins to make payments. Now, some of them are investing into DeFi, buying and selling different types of crypto. And then we're putting our product out for, the entire universe of agents that actually want to buy and sell RWA.
That is brilliant, man.
It's pretty mind bending. Like it's been an interesting 6 weeks. I just went down that rabbit hole to bring this product up out of the ground, and it's kind of crazy.
It's nuts that the time frame is 6 weeks. Like you go back to 2019 when you guys were first doing some of this RWA stuff. Like, could you have ever imagined launching or getting something from, let's just say, even one to actually
It's incredible.
launching it? Yeah,
It's absolutely incredible. Like we've done what most companies have done, especially in the tech departments, and massively reduced headcount, but the output is exponential, and it's just it's the most empowering moment for at least founders, plus every other human.
yeah,
This kind of truly infinite knowledge at your fingertips. It's I've talked a lot about it inside my company and on podcasts and stuff, but it's those that embrace can 100x themselves, and those that sit around worrying about having a job will be worried because they'll lose their kind of job. So there's two ways to view it. It's like, is it infinite opportunity, or it's, complete destruction, I guess. And I want to sit on this side because it's more enjoyable and more positive to think about that. But yeah, this is it. Like putting a product together historically from development is obviously a lot of research, a lot of people involved, product, tech, legal, sales, marketing. Now you're rapidly reducing that timeline by dramatically increasing the information available for everyone on the first day. And I can bring a big percentage of that to the team for the first discussion now, right? Which would have been weeks, sometimes months.
yeah.
And now it's like, in a couple of hours, piecing it all together. Okay, this is it. And this is what we need to do. Like, what is it? And then they're taking that, and they might be in product or tech or sales, and they're coming back like that afternoon with the plan for discussion, of course. But like, it's just insane. Yeah, it's incredible.
Absolutely incredible, man.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you then, what's your own personal setup? Do you have like a Claude bot setup, or what are you running?
We've run the gamut already
Yeah.
because we were Google. Gemini came into Google Workspace automatically. You didn't get a choice.
Kind of forced
Thanks,
on
Google.
us.
Yeah. And it doesn't work very well right now, by the way. So we're on Super Grok because we're in crypto. So AI, like X, is the best for many things. But then some of the team love Perplexity for certain things. We used to be Codex. I guess OpenAI. We're moving full tilt into Claude. Claude in the last month has just skyrocketed past most other platforms, I think.
Yeah.
But it's challenging in that it's definitely not a one LLM world for anyone, I don't think. I think that's healthy. And now I think we're moving past like large language model. I think one of the new narratives might have been like this week, or maybe as early, like small language models, like specifically vertical, specific departments, specific people,
Yeah.
specific tasks. And as you know, the more you use it, the more you want to use it, the more you need to get granular to get actual value. But yeah, we're trying to solidify as many people and as many agents into one platform now.
Yeah.
For cyber risks, for cross border, for team pollination, it's we're building actually something that I started working on a couple weeks ago, but it's always a couple weeks in AI. And then actually Jack Dorsey started talking about, but essentially I'm building a big brain for the company. So instead of like me being CEO, I want like the big brain to be like, I guess, the new org chart for us. It's like this AI brain in the middle, and then we're all around it. And then each person has like their sub agents, and we're all working from a daily updated, like kind of brain about the company, whether it's tech upgrades or marketing upgrades. And I started working on this because I thought it was really interesting. And then one or two other people, like bigger, much more successful, entrepreneurs than myself, started talking about this as well. And I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense because, right now we might have like 53 different agents. They're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So we've already exploded inside our own company, and then it's already like way more management than not having them, which is kind of the opposite because they're all siloed. So we're trying to work out how they can all pull from one source. And that's work in progress because Claude's got like 5 different projects. Even half of them products, even half of them still don't talk to each other yet. But they're coming. Like it's so mad. But yeah, we're loving it. Absolutely loving the AI implementation, the tools. It's just insane. Really, really exciting.
Yeah, and as you said, it's still early days. If the company that's launching some of the most innovative ones don't necessarily even talk to each
No,
other.
they don't.
Yeah,
They don't.
yeah, which is also a little surprising, to be totally honest with you.
I think
but
they're just exploding so quickly.
yeah,
Like,
they're just trying to ship as quickly as
that's right,
possible.
that's right.
Yeah,
and then eventually it's like, well, what's the point of having 5 different apps that don't talk to each other? And then they'll probably go behind and plug them together, and then bang, it'll be like, okay, there'll be enough feedback, I think, from the users. But yeah, so but we like to stay, as I said to you, I like to stay a couple of days behind
yeah,
because of cyber issues. And we're all under attack all the time, as most companies are. So I like to let things roll out for a week or so and just see what happens, and see if anyone's got a better product, or see if anyone's plugged it or fixed it or patched it or built something that's more enterprise friendly.
yeah. Let somebody else be the guinea
right,
pig.
that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
when it's ready, you'll come in.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's the first I've heard of like this like AI hub and spoke model. Is essentially what kind of I took it as. And I will say, of course, there's a lot of efficiency aspects to it, improvements in efficiency, but there's probably also there's lack or less in today's world, right? You're in corporate America. Oftentimes, people end up being the subject matter expert, but don't necessarily pass that knowledge on to other people, right? They essentially become like a roadblock for the rest of the organization
Yes,
or a single point of failure.
that's right.
Yeah, so this solves for that too, fairly easily. And as a CEO and founder, not having to keep that all up in your head and then coordinate across everybody
Yeah.
would also probably be quite welcome.
That's the other thing. It's a great equalizer of people in terms of what ability it gives you, but it's also infinite transparency.
Yeah.
You can't hide anymore, which is good for good people and it's bad for bad people. It's the same. Like if you have an ability for someone to tell you what they did all day, the best people want to tell you because they're doing hard work, and the again, bad actors, they don't want anyone to know what's going on because they're not really doing anything. But now it's insane. Like you can actually just, lastly on this, you can plug Claude into your your work emails and calendars, and then like you can instantly do analysis of like every single discussion you had ever, whether it's 1 week or if there's like it's magic. It's magic. Yeah.
It's something that you would have paid one of the big four, the consulting firms, a lot of money
That's right.
to come in, review,
right.
and then provide you some of
That's
that
right.
output.
That's right. They're in
Yeah.
trouble. But like that's a different discussion, but yeah.
Do you have any fun side projects you're building right now? Any vibe coding projects?
The main focus for us is how do we become a leader in this in the AI. So I was thinking, so how I got to this AI product. So if you spend a lot of time, we talked about Moonshots podcast, which everyone should listen to. Right at the forefront of AI. If you spend a lot of time in the space, you start hearing a lot of maxi views, right? And one of the recent ones I heard was very interesting. It was like, I think it was the OpenAI CEO, but basically said like everything. The currency of the future, I think Elon said this as well. The currency of the future is compute. Yes. And it's tokens, not crypto tokens, as in how many tokens do I need to buy that service or use that service or do whatever I need to do. So essentially then, and you've heard these other people saying, stop building for humans, build for robots. You've had other people say, crypto's real use case is robots. We finally hear a real use case. It was not for humans, it was for robots. So you've got those kind of key statements, which take everything with a grain of salt, but like those things resonate in my head. So then I was like, what is our AI product for us? All right, we've got this infrastructure, we're tokenizing treasuries, money market funds, people can buy and sell them, okay? But what's the product that would make sense that an agent could pay us for in tokens and could do something automatically? Yeah. That was the journey. So then I went, okay, well, if we can build legally compliantly the structure for agents to come and invest into these products, pay us tokens to access either way. It's so early. We're just making the model now. The business model, we're finishing the tech up this week. So, okay, that's it. That's what we're going to do. And it makes sense for us because it's not just made up for the sake of it. It's an actual incredible use case. No one in the world ever talked about this before because I was researching. I couldn't find anything. Just recently, the US leaders, Securitize, actually wrote something about this a week or two ago. But
Yeah.
when we started, like, a long time ago, 6-7 weeks ago, there was nothing out there. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And so even now, when I call agent platforms, there's a lot of people building agent platforms to do all kinds of stuff. I say,
Tons. Yeah.
why don't we collaborate and we'll offer our vaults to your agents? And it takes like 2 or 3 times to say it, explain it, because they're like, what is this? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm talking about like the new way that the robots are going to invest. Like, this is the beginning. This is like day one. Like, so we don't know all the answers, but like, join us and let's work it all out together. And I think it's credible. So that is my AI project. Apart from the big brain in the company trying to I got 3 core people in the team helping build this big brain, but because AI is rapidly evolving, and as you said, like 5 things don't even plug together at Claude yet, like that's like its own project.
Yeah.
Forming. Not perfect yet, maybe never perfect, but they're the 2 main things that I'm doing outside of normal business.
I love it, man. And honestly, it seems like a really natural progression, right? Stable coins to then how can we make
That's
these
right.
assets productive
Yeah, that's right.
with the agents? Where do you think then the next step is after that?
Yeah, I think there's 2. I see 2 ways people are going to use agents in an investment world. I think one is very more obvious, plain vanilla, which is like you're a human KYC'd on a platform, and you're using an agent to help you with portfolio management. So essentially, it's just it's a much more sophisticated version of like putting stop loss orders in and pretty much, but all within a framework and research and analysis and portfolio balancing, etc. And in a digital currency world or digital asset world, 24/7. So that's another big difference. That's one. So that's sort of already happening, probably already for a year or 2, or there's people that have been doing that for a long time. The second version is where I'm building towards, I think, which is like people are programming agents, giving them money and sending them off, to DeFi and RWA and anywhere you can invest online, 24/7, but it's not sitting. You're not sitting in interactive brokers. You're not sitting in Robinhood. Like, your agent is galactic. So that's the 2 worlds I see.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, the AI stuff is continuously developing, obviously at a breakneck pace, and you guys are on the forefront there, just like you have been on the RWA and tokenization space more broadly. We talked about tokenized stocks. What other assets do you think are going to come on chain that people actually, want to interact with?
Yeah, well, I think we have proven a product market fit with US dollar backed, institutional quality, yield bearing assets, daily redemption. So they're the 4 key characteristics of the winning real world asset tokens today.
Yeah,
So building on that, I think higher yielding with the same. So call it private credit. That's a massive industry, lots of different types. There's a lot of it. There's some, like all investment worlds, there's issues out there, but like higher yielding real world asset tokens, I think huge demand, because people have the industry has dabbled, put their toe in the water with the treasuries and stuff. So now it's like, all right. And now with all the US development and BlackRock and everything, it's become, it's the door's open, let's just say, to go there. So that's a big one. Now I see, I think everything else coming in all different speeds, commodities.
the commodities one's interesting.
Very interesting. Commodities, you've got all kinds of shares of different types of industries. We've funded shipping, transport, debt deals. There's obviously fund world. The fund world is enormous. VC funds, secondary funds. Like, there are certain assets that don't work as well, though. I mean,
What are some of those assets that you've seen that don't
that's
necessarily work?
definitely so it's almost like, well, so one key one that's easy for me to bring to the table is private shares. Let's call it pre-IPO stock, right? There's a lot of trading of those stocks, but it's private. Because typically a share trades in a startup, the founders need to sign that off. But because these companies are so big, a lot of those shareholdings that have been put into a special purpose vehicle that have lots of different shareholders. And so you and I might be in part of a SpaceX SPV, and I'm selling to you, or him or her, and it's just trading an LLC share, and that SPV sits as one shareholder on the cap table. So the company doesn't know. And this isn't technically illegal, but if you put that on chain, the company would know there'd be issues. Actually, Robinhood put OpenAI, tokenized OpenAI secondaries on their exchange like last year, end of last year, and Sam Altman, CEO, called up and said, "What's going on?
Yeah.
Take that down." So there's one asset class that I think is interesting. Although there's a lot of appetite for that,
Tons.
but
Yeah.
it's just structured. So on that note, Carter, which is one of the leading cap table management platforms,
Yes.
they launched Carter X, which was their attempt to tokenize all of these secondaries. And it was an absolute disaster because they launched it and the CEO of the startup, the very first startup, because they didn't tell him. So Carter X went whatever, IXS, tokenized IXS shares, the first ones ever. And he went nuclear online on socials and said, "What the hell is going on? They're using my data. Like, I've not sanctioned it." And the Carter X CEO just wrote the next day, basically, "Sorry about that. Finished. Binned. Like 2-year episode, done." Because to validate what I'm saying, like that was not that's not that, and maybe it was too early. That did not work because the founders went public when it's private. So anyway, that's just one example. It's one example.
That is so cowboy
Yeah.
of them to just take another founder's shares and make it essentially publicly available for
It's a wild mistake.
Yeah.
It's a wild mistake because we've got some of the most successful founders in Asia are on our cap table.
Yeah.
And I got an email once saying, "Do you want to buy shares of this startup?" And I forwarded it to my investor, who's a friend of mine, and said, "How's this work? This is interesting." Because I was talking about, why don't we tokenize this stuff?
Yeah.
He goes, "What the hell is this? It's outrageous. Like, who is this?" It's called them up and I was like, "Oh, that's not going to work, that asset." Like, that's how I found out about it. Because I was like, "Hey, how about we?" And he's just like, "I never sanctioned that. This is not kosher. Like, what the hell's going on?" And so he chased that down and shut it down.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's weird because there's a huge industry of pre-IPO stocks, but it's all private.
And to be totally frank with you, it's one of the asset classes that has the most friction in transferring from like me to you.
That's right.
And crypto does seem to be well posed to help there, but sounds like
That's fine. But again, like, I would keep open-minded about it. Things will change. Things might change. It also depends where it is and how it works. Like I was thrown off by treasuries. I was thrown off by stocks, as in thrown off with my team saying, "No, like that what's the point of that," kind of thing. We're sitting in Singapore and, one of the financial hubs of the world. I can buy stocks on 5 different apps. Treasury tokens, I could buy them. Like, what's the point of this? But it's like, hang on. There's 8.5 billion people in the world, and everyone's, a lot of these countries and jurisdictions are just ways away. So like, and that's one of the reasons why crypto blew up. Like, it was an opportunity for many people in, there's a lot of pump and dump schemes in crypto, but there's a lot of people been using crypto to remit to their families back home, like the real use case for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because the smaller you are and the more undeveloped your country is, for some reason you get the worst deal. That's been the history of the world. And it's there's a lot of opportunities with RWA in many different areas of the globe.
It is a story as old as time, absolutely. And we started off here at the top of the stack, treasuries, money market funds, etc. We're kind of going further down, stocks, bonds, whatever else will come on chain. I am curious, I know you said tokenized pre-IPO securities, maybe not so much, a proper market fit. How far down the rung do you think we're actually going to make it? Are mom and pop shops going to end up tokenizing their, let's say they own like 5 franchises, and then
100%.
That's going to be how people transact?
Well, my answer is 100%. Why? Because anywhere you set up a company is in a country or jurisdiction. Today, that's a paper registry, essentially.
Yeah.
So what do regulators want? They want a lot of things, but one thing they want is transparency, right? They don't want investors to get cheated. I mean, that's one of the core DNAs of regulation, right? And that's why the capital markets exist, where there's the most protection for investors. So it works.
Capital flies to
That's
safety.
right.
Absolutely.
So it works. Sometimes massively overregulated, et cetera, but that's a different topic. But it works. So then it's like, okay, so if we as a country, like, so let's say I'm a country and I have 100,000 companies, right? Do I really know instantly who are the shareholders? No, because there's transfers being made and it's 3 weeks here and it's in a lawyer and it's some corporate registry that's fudding around for 3 months to get you the paperwork and all that drama. It's a nightmare. We all know about it. It's a nightmare. But, so it'd be much more beneficial for me if everything was on chain. So when I open up my laptop, I know exactly that second who owns what, where do they own it, and it's much more transparent. So if you think about it like that, every government will put every security on chain. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a world of paper that lives on for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I think. But there'll become new corporate registries that are fully on chain. That's starting already. There's been trials around that because it's better. It's more transparent. So then the result is that there won't be any paper shares issued again at some point in time. It will all 100% be on chain. But that's a parallel universe for the next 50 years.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time until we
for
get there.
But that's how you sit. So the answer is yeah, because it's a better system. You won't be able to issue paper shares at some point.
Yeah.
You just won't be able to do it.
And coming almost full circle, right? You're like, I'm waiting, and we have been waiting, right, for that marriage between this digital asset class and, you know, the Robin Hoods of the world and the traditional financial system. And we are seeing that come together in real time. I know that there's some interesting projects going on around across multiple different jurisdictions. What do you think of some of like the CBDCs? Are you guys getting involved in any of those conversations?
Yeah, I think that's personally not a massive fan.
Okay,
Just about that.
I also worked at the New York Fed, but
Right.
I'm not a big fan of essentially Big Brother being able to
One
control.
of our main advisor, a friend of mine, Gabriel Abed, he's now the chairman of Binance. One of his first companies was BITT, and it was in a CBDC advisory for governments.
Yeah.
Let me advise, he was one of the very, very early guys in blockchain and cryptography. When I chatted with him years ago, he was very pro. But then he realized, you know, that discussion, I'm not going to pinpoint him, but the discussion was, and you can see this up in China. Look, I think ultimately there's a lot of innovation going on. I mean, in Singapore, we were actually given a financial grant to tokenize the new Singapore fund vehicle about 2 years ago. So they launched an onshore fund vehicle to compete with offshore jurisdictions like Cayman and whatnot. And we said, hey, that's great, but like, what if we tokenized the public-private chain? They gave us some money to do that and share the findings. We wrote a 140-page white paper.
That's brilliant, man.
To share with them, like, what are our suggestions, working with UBS and State Street, and we brought the whole project together. What are the suggestions from the working group to make this a fully on-chain fund that works with all the considerations, tax and flows and cross-border and all that stuff.
All that fun stuff, yeah.
So that's how forward-thinking they are as a government. They're funding projects for the benefit of the country, with the right participants, and then start moving on those changes, which obviously have to be done at the highest level. So it depends on the government, but you know, and depends where you are and what type of asset. But yeah, I think it's definitely time. I mean, a lot of this stuff typically though happens in startup land. You know, like we're talking about tokenized RWA vaults for agents. Like, no governments gonna have that discussion for a while.
I can't imagine the OCC bringing that up.
Well, you know, it's always like, it's true. Regulations just can't keep up with the speed of tech. I mean, you're having that's just reality. But I think as long as you're trying to innovate and do legitimate things and not cheat people, then there's always a path forward. There's always somewhere to go.
The Singapore project that you guys worked on the onshore fund, very interesting. What are some of the other, you know, RWA projects that you guys are working on that you're quite excited about?
Yeah, I think we're really hoping that even after a couple of discussions this US trip, that we get some high quality private credit tokens to the table. There's an interesting situation happening now, more of a market adaptation than anything else. But the biggest challenge for, you know, what I'm excited by, it's related not necessarily any particular product. I do think there's a lot of exciting stuff, commodities and whatnot. You know, one thing that we're doing with you guys, I should say, is like the Bitcoin real yield product, where we're loaning stable coins to Bitcoin holders that are reinvested in tokenized fixed income, and the investors own those RWA tokens. So they can choose a treasury token, a money market fund token, which is US dollar backed, which is the real yield part. So I'm very excited by that. Typically Bitcoin is a non-yield bearing asset. You can put it in BTC Fi, Bitcoin Fi, you know, DeFi. less than 0.5% of Bitcoin does that. So 99.5% of Bitcoin doesn't do it. So we've come up with a product, and we're working closely with BitGo, where we bring real yields to Bitcoin holders and they don't have to sell the Bitcoin. So I'm very excited by that. And then I'm also, excited by the fact that we've got more. One of the biggest challenges for RWA historically has been the KYC rails, but we now have, I guess, market adoption coming, where essentially it's traditional finance at the beginning and the end, and it's DeFi in the middle. So what does that mean? It means you want to buy and sell the tokenized treasury, you've got to be a legitimate investor. If you want to trade it in DeFi through different structures and whatnot, you can do that. You can do that with other people. But if you want to redeem it for cash, you've got to come back to the original KYC. So this is very exciting because it's the perfect marriage of both the DeFi and the TradFi, and everyone seems to be happy with it because the issuers are only selling to a known entity. DeFi investors can buy and sell and do whatever they want to do with this stuff. But again, if you want to come back and cash it in, so that's one of the other recent developments in the industry that's rapidly gaining traction out there.
Awesome, man. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Really appreciate the time. And
thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Anytime, man.